Planning Board meeting scheduled for August 6, 2020. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting will be held on a virtual platform, Zoom, and can be seen. PBD Channel Television will be airing the meeting live on Channel 9 and also streaming on PBD Access TV. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of the meeting held with Zoom on July 16, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 16th, 2020.
Make this simple. Raise your hand if you.
Second.
Second by Judy.
All those in favor?
For the record, everybody raises their hand.
A&Rs and land court, none listed.
I did not receive any this week, so none.
Site building permit, plan preview for 83 Pine Street, map 45, lot 500.
Yep, I'm allowing Jack LD. And then is that once Harry and Jack are up, I'll just to confirm. The 617.
This is continued from the 7/16 meeting.
Harry, do you know if this 617 number is this Peter Ogren?
Yes.
Let me check. Probably
Yes, it
is.
Peter.
Okay.
So are we ready?
You're all set, Jack.
Yep, you're all set.
Thank you. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm appearing on behalf of the Covenant Christian Academy, who seeks a building permit from the city of Peabody in order to build a gymnasium with some space above. There are no showers being proposed for the new gymnasium facility. We have been before the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have filed for site plan approval. We have been through the Construction Review Committee portion of site plan review, and we are now appearing for the second time before the Planning Board. During our initial appearance, it became clear that the Department of Public Services in the person of Will Politz had not yet completed a review of our plans for development of the property. We had been given a memorandum yesterday, which set forth a number of circumstances and issues which Mr. Politz would like to see addressed. Peter Ogren, who I believe is with us by telephone, had taken the time to respond to that memorandum, and that was sent to Andrew this morning. And I think he did share that memorandum and the responses there too by Mr. Ogren with the Planning Board. I think that's part of your package. And we're here to try to resolve the issue of the issuance of a building permit. The principal issues raised, first and foremost, there was apparently a memorandum that was supplied, Andrew, to our first meeting of the Construction Review Committee. However, or perhaps it was it was not submitted at an informal meeting we had. It was, I think, then submitted at a subsequent meeting that perhaps Will could not attend. And I don't think that memo was ever shared with us. Notwithstanding that fact, we have commented on it. So if you're looking at,
are you talking about Will's questions that he mentions in his memo?
Yeah, he said find our department's original comments from the April 29th meeting.
I believe he was just stating his comments that he made at the meeting.
At the meeting, that makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes
I don't
sense.
think there was any memo. There was no memo
Okay.
that was submitted.
Notwithstanding how that occurred, Mr. Ogren has worked at addressing each of those matters, and they all seem to be moving rather smoothly until we get to the issues concerning drainage, in which we've responded, answering the questions asked, but saying that we would like to, that these matters require further discussion. In general, the department is saying that we should not be tying into an existing drain system. We have proposed to tie into existing drainage systems, but have suggested that we are aware of the failure of at least one of the catch basin areas, and we have suggested that we will and are mindful of the fact that we must and will rebuild those portions of the system. At the same time, we have also suggested that we're happy to test the system as to determining its functionality from catch basin to catch basin. Some years ago, the practice was to drain properties through, I think they call it chain linking, or through a chain system in which one catch basin leads to another. It would appear that Mr. Politz is suggesting that we should be building new lengths of catch basin system, and our objection to that is for a relatively small project. We're looking at something in excess of $100,000 to build a separate and distinct catch basin system. We are, however, mindful of our duty and our suggestion that we would be happy to test flow. If it would require camera, we could do that. But we know for sure there is one area that needs to be completely rebuilt, and we will undertake that as part of our eventual full approval. The other matters that are, there's a note that says the applicant submitted a blank site plan submittal. We did submit a site plan review application. However, the checklist portion of it was not completed, and I'm happy to check the appropriate box as to whether it's been provided on the plan, and we would complete that. And I think that Mr. Ogren has said the applicant's attorney is reviewing our submittal, and will determine what is applicable to this filing, and that is checking off the appropriate boxes. We have applied for a building permit that's currently pending. We have stated with respect to a backflow preventer, we've provided them on the fire service as required by the plumbing code. We have met with the PVD Fire Department in our construction review meetings, and we did go through radius issues with respect to the fire department's ability to access the premises, and we did supply a breakdown of the current tenants who are largely educational, but we have utilized educational space, and we have supplied a parking memorandum to the building commissioner, which reflects the total need for spaces under pursuant to zoning, and that we are well over the required number of spaces required for our uses and for this building in general. We have also agreed that the other issue is the TSS calculations need to achieve a 80% TSS removal. That's another item that Mr. Ogren has said that we would like to revisit with the department in terms of for further discussion. Our position, I believe, on that one is that we would not like to be put in a position of revamping the entire system and removing 80%. This was a building bought from the city of Peabody some years ago. The city retained the rights, the fee in all of the playing fields. They provided the Covenant Christian Academy with the ability to use and access the fields. And we likewise provided a license to the city of Peabody, which enables them to be using the parking for in conjunction with the athletic fields. So we're hopeful that we will be given an approval, if not a complete approval, a condition approval, which would suggest that we return to the Public Services Department for further discussion with respect to rebuilding the entire storm drain system.
Yeah, Jack,
Yes, sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, that's Peter Ogren.
Yes, it is. This is Peter Ogren. I think we should point out that the drainage system is a private drainage system that went with the school and belongs to the condominium. Our people are only one member of the condominium, and Will's letter does not talk about to what extent he expects these things done. I think we need to sit down and come up with reasonable accommodations as far as some of these items. Yeah.
Yes, we are here. Was the board able to hear Peter? Do we have further questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Just to what Mr. Ogren just said.
In the meeting.
To the extent that things that are going to need to be done in connection with the project relate to the concerns of the condominium. I'm generally familiar with condominiums, and you can't do anything, you know, unless you comply with the condominium documents, and you get at least some kind of a percentage of members agreeing to allow it to be done to common area.
Yeah, our owners are the largest condominium owners.
Yeah, we have control.
So is 51% all required to get anything done?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
If I could just chime in, Mr. Chairman, I did speak on the phone with Will Politz when he did send this memo in. That all of you should have had the memo from Will that I forwarded to all of you yesterday, and then on top of that, this morning I forwarded everybody the response, or I put it in the packets, the response from Mr. Ogren. Peter, I just have a couple questions. The new, and speaking to Will, you brought this to my attention, the new drop-off area in front of the new entrance to the school, are you planning for buses to be able to go in there? And if so, what type of buses? Are they going to be able to?
My response indicates that the school only has cars, vans, and the short buses. There are no large buses that they use to drop off kids. Mostly cars and small vans, and those all can make the turning radii, and we have sufficient area for the vehicles to pass.
So
We've been over that with the school.
Okay, so buses, did you say that buses can make the turning radius?
No, buses can't necessarily make the turning radius, but they don't use large buses. If you're talking about Greyhound buses, they don't have any.
I'm talking about like school buses. I think then, while yes, the school doesn't have any, I think you are making this as a gymnasium for sports teams. So I'm not to say that every school is not going to have a school bus. I would say there needs to be proper signage there. to tell a bus they can't pull in there, just so you don't run into any problems?
Well, we've provided the buses also can't park in our parking spaces. We don't have any bus parking spaces, but when you're talking about a bus coming when they have a tournament, we have provided stairs that communicate with the front entrance to the gymnasium and the next lane over, where they can park the buses parallel to the travel aisle rather than normal, which is the way the cars are parked. So it's going to be easy for them to park there and come up the stairs and enter the new entrance.
No, I mean, I understand. I saw the steps, so that's why I thought that would, solve the entrance problem. But I just think you should probably add, that you're putting other signage in there, but something that you don't run into the problem that a bus is driving over the grass or getting stuck somewhere, because you don't know if other schools might not have larger buses.
Yeah, we can put a sign at that entrance and say, or actually we would turn to go in there and say, vans and cars only, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the short buses will know that they can make it or can't make it, that are used regularly by the academy, and we can maybe somehow work out with the school how the large buses would be parked during a tournament.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that and make sure that's known.
Anything else, Andrew?
Oh, and then I can also add that at the last meeting, the chat was brought up, or discussion was had regarding the city and the applicants, the use of the fields and parking. I reached out to Jen Davis along with other members in the city, and the meeting hasn't happened yet between Covenant Christian Academy in the city yet, but I think there could be grounds potentially in the application, if any action is taken, to add a condition that maybe no occupancy permit is available until a solution has come for the parking and the field use.
May I speak to that?
Yep. Oh,
We have a license agreement that exists between the city of Peabody and the Christian the owner of the condominium, which in this instance the principal owner is the Covenant Christian Academy. We have remained and continue to be more than willing to sit into a meeting. But the issue of building a new gymnasium and working with the city at a meeting that we have been asking for and been more than willing to participate in since March, now to be this lingering, if the city people can't arrange for a meeting, we should not be held hostage to that failure, in my opinion, on the city's part to be able to arrange for a meeting.
Matthew, you had a question?
Yeah, I just had a thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question again regarding the parking, Jack. I do note in today's response that it says information has been provided to the building inspector. Not to be a stickler, but could you please review, how the elimination of 30 regular spots and about 4 handicap spots, despite the addition of 350 occupants to the building, it has been satisfied, like that the parking.
Well, there is not an addition of 350 occupants to the building.
That's what the calculations for the water usage say, that you've got an occupant spectator load of 343 people. So I mean,
that's at the very.
In that response, I point out that would only be for a tournament. That would be off hours as far as the use of the other facilities. There are stands for 344 spectators. Actually, I believe it says, but I pointed out that that's only on a rare occasion. That's not a new daily situation. The daily use of it is only for the occupants of or for the students at the Christian Academy.
think occupant loads are calculated by square footage and use, not time of day that a facility is being used. But I mean, I could be wrong, but that's, I think, an architectural kind of code. But I guess the root of my question was, you said that information was provided to the building inspector. Was said information a recalculation of the overall parking of the site based on the elimination of those spots?
The overall parking was based on the daily uses of the site, which are 2 or 3 different schools and I don't know, I don't remember all the other. We listed all of the regular uses of the site. The typical use of this gym is simply for the occupants of the students of the Covenant Christian Academy.
I think it's all, go ahead.
It's a little bit like the soccer fields out and back. We understand that they have some tournaments and there's a large number of occupants, but on a daily basis, they're not used for that, for tournaments.
The other issue is that we are an educational use, and as such, we are 40A exempt under 40A3. However, the case is, this is with respect to the so-called Dover Amendment. So we have looked at the cases, and although in general, educational and religious uses are exempted from zoning, there are cases that have come down that say that reasonable regulation and the reasonable application, especially of dimensional controls, it is in fact reasonable, and that can be done. We therefore went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We did acquire some dimensional relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then agreed that we would subject ourselves to site plan review, and supplied the multiple uses and number of students, and there's a daycare in there. We supplied the number of people that are in that daycare, and applied ordinary principles of our zoning ordinance, and we found ourselves well in excess of what zoning would dictate be applicable to this facility. But you know, I in fact had a case in the Superior Court where the city of Newburyport was suggesting that we needed a parking space in a daycare for every student. None of our students drove. That was a very short trial, I can suggest to you. The judge ruled from the bench that we should leave, and they should let us not have parking for each student in a daycare. I only bring that up to say that there is strong statutory protection for educational uses. Notwithstanding that fact, we have applied Peabody's zoning to our building and our uses, and satisfied the building commissioner that we were not in violation of zoning, even if the parking requirements of the Peabody zoning ordinance were applied to us.
Thank you, Mr. Kelty. Any other questions from the board? Roy?
Yes, thanks. Through you, Mr. Chairman. So this is not a question, it's just kind of a commentary. It appears the city owns a significant piece of that parking. And I'm wondering, is the city prepared to put hoods on all the catch basins in the pieces they own, and deepen the catch basins to 4 feet, and get rid of any that are daisy chained from catch basin to catch basin? Because it sounds like also when the city sold this property, I got to imagine that they didn't hand the new owner a drainage maintenance plan, because there wasn't one.
No.
So I don't know. It just seems like a whole heck of a lot of stuff to put a gymnasium on a school that's going on here. That's all. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Roy. Any other questions from the board?
I just would point out that while the city of Peabody owns that land, it's only owning it because it technically needs to own everything with 400 feet of a well. And we have an easement for all the parking rights, and I'm sure we have the responsibility for the drainage as well.
Hearing any other questions? Would somebody like to make a motion as suggested by Andrew that building permit to issue subject with no occupancy until certain conditions are met with the Public Works Department? You're muted.
My comments were that this there is potential for action to be taken conditioned on a satisfaction of DPS, and then that, you know, from the city side, that we want to see that there's some sort of solution so that the city was recommending that potentially the condition also be on that there be no occupancy permit permitted until a solution has come for the parking. And
Which if someone would arrange a meeting, we would be happy to to do that. There's one time during the entire year that there's a conflict with respect to the city and the school, and that is around Memorial Day, at such time as the school is graduating their class and Peabody is having a soccer tournament. I think it's easily rectified in terms of, you know, timing, people sharing calendars, but as long as we've been asking for that meeting to be held, nobody steps forward and, you know, we don't get the opportunity to have that meeting. So I'm not necessarily objecting to having such a meeting, and it's just that if nobody ever offers that meeting, does that mean we don't get a certificate of occupancy? It seems to me we're mixing apples and oranges. I don't mind further meeting with DPS and trying to assuage the department into, you know, we're going to agree to most every of their suggestions.
Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Attorney Kelty. My only concern with an approval subject to the DPS conditions or requirements is that it seems to me, from reading the memo and Mr. Ogren's response to it, that DPS and the applicant are fairly far apart philosophically as to drainage and other utilities. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, I would say we are fairly far apart in terms of what
I would say only Jack, only as to drainage. The other utilities, we're right on board. I mean, he questioned some things, but we have plumbing approval. We know how our utilities are coming out of the building, and that's not even under the purview of public services. The only place that we think that it's a little bit excessive, and I think one of your members just agreed that was the case, is what we need to do on stormwater. And I think it's an existing system. What the MS4 permit of the city requires is that there be improvements made, and we're willing to do that. I think we just got to come to grips with how extensive the improvements need to be.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think that when the memo or condition is made, I think you also need to accept in the late ads, which would be the DPS memo we're chatting about and the response from Mr. Ogren.
Anyone would like to make a motion?
I'll give it a try, Mr. Chairman. I move that the building permit issue, but that no occupancy permit issue until the applicant has met all of the conditions and concerns expressed by the DPW in its memo of August 5th, either as they're stated in that memo or as they may be modified through further negotiation between the applicant and the department. And also that no occupancy permit issue until there is mutual agreement reached between the city and the academy with respect to the use of the parking in the fields. But I would like to condition that upon there being a meeting within the next 45 days, failing which I would eliminate that as a condition for issuance of the occupancy permit.
Do we have a second? Roy Samus, second. Could I have a roll call, Andrew?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just pull it open. Okay. Roll call. Dr. Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Feld,
Yes.
Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Simoes,
Yes.
Mr. Betancourt,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez. Did you say yes, Matt?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Passes.
Passes. Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Thank
Board.
you very much.
Thank you.
Subdivision board action, proposed Stonegate subdivision. Action continued to August 13th, 2020.
In your packets, you should have seen that there was a request for continuance provided by Jack or Attorney Kelty. I believe moves out into past the next meeting. I think that's your. There we go. There, Attorney Kelty provided a letter, which was then provided to everybody in the meeting packets, asking to continue the subdivision action until August 27th, 2020, which would put us out, which would allow us to have the next meeting, and then to pretty much take action at the next meeting.
Thank you, Andrew. Can we have a motion on that, please?
Motion to receive
Go ahead.
the extension for Stonegate
Oh, okay. To August 27th.
to August 27th.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand.
Let the record show everybody raise their hand. Yeah, oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Jack, just while you're here, at that next meeting, I also just wanted to note, provided in your packets, a letter from Attorney Kelty as well, showing the proposed location for the pump station. So if every board member could review that before our next meeting, and I believe that we could then have some discussion on that location. And in the meantime, I'll also reach out to Department of Public Services so that we could probably have some feedback as well from there. Because I believe, Jack, you'll have to go in front of the city council for that.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think twofold. I think that one for it is on city property. So one is disposition of land, which is in their jurisdiction. Would they let us put our pump station there, which we think makes sense because it's at the lower elevation, which would provide the optimum functionality of the pump station, and eventually this pump station being turned over to the public, then there would be easy access to the station. But those are comments that I think that the board and DPS will provide for us. But I think also, I think you need a special permit to build the pump station, given the fact that it's going to be turned over to the city. Aren't we building a pump station at the foot of Baldwin to pump water up to parts of Mount Pleasant? I always want to call it Hog Hill, but if it requires a special permit, I will explore that. And if that's the case, we'll be there for two things. One would be the issuance of the special permit, and the second would be on the question of disposition of land.
You're muted.
That entire thing?
No, I'm talking to me. Sorry. So I think if everybody could just review that, because I think it'll just be helpful to the overall conversation to provide the applicant's comments from the planning board on their proposed location. And I believe we're still awaiting Meridian. I believe they're working on getting that all set. So I'm hoping that we can get that within the next 2 weeks to forward to all board members as well.
All set on that?
So I will have an appointment at the next meeting to discuss the pump station.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Jack. Correspondence, 40B comprehensive permit, 15 King Street.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can, sorry on my part, I'm just making, we're gonna hold off on I'm gonna ask that we probably hold off on discussing this or making any sort of recommendation just yet. I had misunderstood, miscommunication. I thought ZBA had accepted the application. They've yet to. So I would probably hold off on, or I would recommend that we probably hold off on any discussion or making any recommendations until the ZBA has formally accepted their application. I believe they're meeting August 26th. So maybe at our first September meeting, we can discuss that. I just want to make the applications available to everybody now and the information so they can start reviewing it. And then just how the 40 comprehensive permit applications go, we'll just provide a letter of recommendation or comments to the Zoning Board of Appeals for them to add into the record on their discussion.
Yes, Judy?
We're not required to make a recommendation, are we?
We're not. We're just on the list to make one, just how
Okay.
comprehensive permits go, because it will not go in front of us. So this is our chance to provide comments or recommendations.
Okay, thanks.
So, isn't the meeting the 17th?
You know what, maybe it is the 17th. That might be off.
So, and that's before our next meeting? It is.
Our next meeting is the 20th.
So they're going to be potentially deciding the issuance of the permit before we have a chance to say anything. Just so I understand the timing.
I thought they were meeting August 27th, but it could be the 17th. That being said, I don't think they'll make an initial vote the first night because I think they have to accept it first. So I think they'll wait to hear comments back from everybody.
The agenda says they're meeting on the 17th.
Oh, okay.
Our agenda, I mean.
Okay, then yes, I got that right from the application. So I don't believe they're going to I don't think they'll do a decision.
Isn't that something like a 4-night process for?
Yeah, I mean, it could be even longer.
Yeah.
But again, because they'll want to hear the different boards, because again, it doesn't go before other boards through the comprehensive permit process.
Thank you, Andrew. At this time, other matters properly before the board? Hearing none, then I'll take a motion.
Move to adjourn.
You have a second? Dennis Phelps, second. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Let the record show that everybody raised their hand. Meeting adjourned 7:40 p.m. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, board members.